Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you, the listener, direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. They are, as always, Michael Geer with the Pennsylvania Family Institute and Jason McGuire at New York Families. Well, gentlemen, start your engines. Jay, I'll begin with you. We're getting real close to Election Day 2025. All eyes, of course, on the big mayor's race out of New York City. But for those of us who do not live in New York City, why is it still worth showing up at the polls Tuesday, November 4th?
Yeah, this is one of those years in which you're going to see many local elections on the ballot. And really what happens at the local level has a great impact on your life. And so you will be voting for mayors and voting for town boards. There is actually a special election outside of your listening area, but up in the North Country for a state assembly seat. And so in various places in the state, you will have various kinds of candidates and offices to vote for. And so we encourage people to vote in every election because every election does have an impact on your life.
Michael, a simple yes or no vote will determine the fate of the three liberal justices on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. That, of course, is the big contest a week from Tuesday, those so-called retention elections. How difficult will it be to toss those justices from the bench?
Well, the retention elections typically go in favor of holding on to those seats, but there have been precedents in the past where that doesn't happen. And I think in this particular race, and a lot of money being spent on both sides, that there is a great potential for the no vote to win out in these three Supreme Court elections. I think what's notable in these retention elections especially is just how controversial these justices have been on issues related to gerrymandering, COVID shutdowns. The abortion issue is prominent in this race. All three of these justices have been backed by the abortion lobby, so that raises the profile of this race to a significant place that maybe the no's might win.
Yeah. Jason, there has been a lot of clamoring for prison reform in light of the big story this week out of Oneida County, New York, the verdicts in those Marcy murder trials, 1 conviction, 2 acquittals. What's been your reaction to the verdict, and what are the greatest needs when it comes to our correctional institutions in New York?
Well, looking at the family of Robert Brooks, they are greatly concerned that they do not feel that justice has been completely satisfied in this situation. And, I wasn't in the room. I don't know exactly what happened, but I have a hard time seeing when there is essentially a mob there that beat that man, and some did not act to stop it. I have a problem with that. There is a push to bring some reforms to our criminal justice system, and much of what is being proposed and is currently on the governor's desk does not seem objectionable. I expect she will sign it into law, but I'm not sure that any of these legal changes are going to make all that much difference until we really change what's going on in the hearts and minds of every individual. You simply cannot stop all of these things with a law. We have to change hearts and minds how we approach the dignity of every individual.
Well, Michael, by my count, the state budget was due 118 days ago, but instead of addressing that, Pennsylvania politicians seem more interested in abortion expansion and marijuana. Tell us a little bit about what's happening in Harrisburg with Senate Bill 49, as well as these extreme and aggressive abortion measures in the House Judiciary Committee.
Yeah, Pennsylvania is the only state in the nation that doesn't have a budget settled, and yet the legislature, or some in the legislature, pushing some bills that don't stand a chance of getting ultimately passed. That would be the case in these pro-abortion bills that are in the House of Representatives. These bills would include putting a constitutional right to abortion all the way up through birth, also creating a situation where health and safety regulations on abortion clinics and the 24-hour waiting period and other things being repealed. Those are really being done by legislators in the Democrat House, simply, I think, to try to turn out the vote and to raise money, but ultimately not going to get past the Pennsylvania Senate. On the marijuana issue, Senate Bill 49 would establish a control board for marijuana or cannabis, and to some degree, it's looking at the sort of wild, wild west that exists with medical marijuana here in Pennsylvania, but we are concerned that it may grease the skids for legalization of commercial sale of marijuana ultimately.
Yeah, and with the dysfunction right now in Harrisburg, any chance that could slip into a final deal and become law without people really knowing it?
Well, we hope and pray not, but those kinds of things happen when you get in these budget impasses. We've seen it happen before with expanded gambling, and so we are keeping a close watch on what's happening at the Capitol as a result.
Well, Jason, New York North Country Congresswoman Elise Stefanik says her internal polling shows she's within striking distance of Governor Hochul in the 2026 gubernatorial race. I know Stefanik has yet to declare herself a candidate, but I'm wondering, are New York Republican Party leaders rallying around Stefanik, or is there still a chance that a dark horse might emerge as the official GOP challenger next year?
I don't think there'll be a challenger. It does appear that the GOP has been clearing the path for a single candidate. They're not looking to get into a messy primary in 2026 to get resources away from challenging the sitting governor, Kathy Hochul. And I fully expect that after this November's election that Representative Stefanik will announce. Every indication out there seems to be that she's positioning herself to run. So I think we're a matter of a few weeks away from having a real challenge here in the state of New York. I'll say this, I'm watching what's happening in New Jersey where there's a Republican candidate who is surging and may win that race.
Yeah.
And if a Republican candidate wins in New Jersey, I certainly think it means New York could be in play next year.
Now, who would have thought New Jersey would be a purple state? All of a sudden it is now. That's a race really worth keeping an eye on November 4th. Michael, there's legislation in the Pennsylvania House. Anything that comes out of the House, I know you keep a close eye on. It's House Bill 1873. It would change the legal definition of child abuse and neglect in the Commonwealth in order to avoid overreach by child protective workers. Do you support this effort, or will it, in the end, endanger children if adopted?
Well, our policy and legal teams here at PA Family are continuing to review the specifics of that bill, but at first blush, it does look like it's aimed at curbing some of the excesses or overreach of the Child Protective Services group, especially in situations where children are not really in danger from abuse. When you think about things like a 13-year-old babysitting other kids, those situations have resulted in some Child Protective Services involved, or even just walking to school or playing outside unsupervised. Sometimes we've gotten a little bit overreaching in terms of thinking that children are in danger when they're really not.
Yeah.
But we continue to watch it, and we'll be analyzing that bill.
All right. Jason, the first of the year, new state law will forbid natural gas hookups in new home constructions. We've been talking a lot about this gas ban in New York. Critics are saying this is going to price people out of homes. Housing is so desperately needed in New York. Given the rising cost of energy already, do you anticipate Governor Hochul will delay implementation of this law?
Well, Republicans have been railing against this proposal for some time, but just this week, a number of Democrat members in the state legislature wrote to the governor, and they've asked her to delay this deadline, to push it off. They said, we just simply cannot meet it. And so now we're seeing movement, even the Democratic side of the aisle, on this issue. I think it does indicate that it is just not feasible at this time to reach those goals, and I expect that something's going to have to give. Remember, it is an election year, and so every issue is going to matter, and I think that Governor Hochul will be paying attention to where the people are on this particular issue.
Michael, there is research out that shows the transing of kids, for lack of a better term, may be slowing down. I know Jason is writing about this on his website as well. Some studies have shown that as many as 4 out of 5 trans kids will grow out of it by adulthood. That being said, are Pennsylvania hospitals still performing these dangerous operations on minors? And if so, what's being done about it?
Yeah, they are dangerous and irreversible and have a long-lasting harm. It's really hard to pin down the specifics of what various Pennsylvania hospital networks may or may not be doing, but things have changed significantly since the Trump administration said it will deny federal funding to hospitals that continue to provide these damaging surgeries to minors. So right now what we know is Penn State Health and UPMC have publicly stated they're no longer offering these procedures, but notably Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, or CHOP as it's referred to, is apparently continuing to do it and fighting the Trump administration over the rule. What we need to do is get a state law passed, but with Josh Shapiro as our governor, that's not likely in the near future.
All right. That will have to be the last word this week. Election day fast approaching. I know, Michael, you've got a new voter guide that folks can get their hands on if they want to know what's on the ballot, who are the candidates they're voting for this year. Where can folks find that?
through our website at pafamily.org.
And stay informed on all the elections in New York as well. Jason, where can folks find you online?
NewYorkFamilies.org.